parts of eastern Pennsylvania and upstate New York. You can see it here on the satellite loop where the clouds just kind of blossom out in the late afternoon and evening. There's some very strong thunderstorms there, but they. Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Monday, and we have a new tropical storm in the Atlantic, Tropical Storm Don, and you can see it right here. A little bit of a surprise to me, but when you look at the satellite, the visible satellite late this afternoon, right in here, you can see that there's a really solid core of convection that develops, and an Air Force Reconnaissance aircraft investigated this and found that there was a very tight core of tropical storm force winds. So here is the season's fourth tropical storm, and it is heading what looks like toward the Windward Islands, where tropical storm warnings are posted. But at the moment anyway, at least as far as the conditions are concerned in the tropical Atlantic, conditions are favorable for some strengthening between now and the time it reaches the Windward Islands. But once it goes into the Eastern Caribbean, conditions there are very hostile, and it's likely to get taken apart, much the way Tropical Storm Brett was. We'll come back to that in just a second. I want to go down over to the Pacific side, where we have Hurricane Fernanda, and you can see the well-tight core circulation here. Still an eye is visible. Top winds are estimated at 125 miles an hour, and it continues on this west-northwest track. So pretty soon the center is going to be crossing 15 degrees north, and then it gets a little further north from there. It's going to continue to encounter colder waters, and that is going to gradually bring about the demise of Fernanda. Now, on the wider view, this is why I always like these Pacific views, because sometimes when you get into the deep into the tropical storm season, you could have 3 or 4 of these systems running around at the same time. And in fact, I'm just going to see if I can shift this over a little bit. It may not let me. Okay, it did. But we have Fernanda here. This is a new tropical depression that is formed south of Mexico. And then there's a system in between here that looks like it's trying to organize into a tropical depression. But at least as far as the one that's off the coast of Mexico, conditions aren't that favorable for development. There's a large upper low that's sitting out here. It's hard to pick out, though, on the satellite loop, but it is there on the analysis. And it's going to create a nasty environment for that depression. And this system may have a chance to go and develop, but it's pretty much traveling the same waters that we had Fernanda just move over, so there's probably been some upwellings. The oceans may not be as warm as it otherwise would be. And you can see with perspective, here's Hawaii, here's Fernanda. It's still quite a ways away, and it is never really going to make it in terms of an intact tropical cyclone. Maybe as a remnant low eventually, but I doubt that it'll be much more than that. Now, here's Don on the visible satellite loop on the Atlantic side, and you can see the disturbances that are right behind it. You can also see right up here, this lighter gray shading. There's dry air, and that's been an ongoing problem. And here it is on the water vapor imagery. You can see it. It's not as pronounced as it's been over the last several days to a week or more, but it's still there. Here's that large upper low in the central Atlantic, and you have here in the Caribbean, as we talked about it, you have dry air and westerly winds. So that is going to be a problem for Tropical Storm Don when it moves into that particular area, which it's going to do so probably in the next 36 hours or so. We'll see what happens with that, and we'll also see whether the system behind it has a chance to develop here as it moves westward. At least the tropical Atlantic seems to be sending out enough waves, but until you can get conditions to fix themselves in the upper atmosphere, it's going to be hard for these weather systems to really develop into anything. Now, back in the U.S., we've got some severe weather breaking out across parts of eastern Pennsylvania and upstate New York. You can see it here on the satellite loop where the clouds just kind of blossom out in the late afternoon and evening. There's some very strong thunderstorms there, but they probably will not survive as they move eastward and head toward the coast. But the inland sections here, that was the area that was indicated by the Storm Prediction Center of the National Weather Service with regards to the risk for severe weather, and you can see it here for this evening. Fairly large area of marginal risk with a smaller enclosed area of slight risk from northeastern Pennsylvania up into looks like southern Vermont. And there is a severe thunderstorm watch that is up for inside that slight risk area, but it's well north and west of the coastal areas and the big cities. We're going to go to the West Coast satellite, and you can see in the West Coast, it's a typical summer day. There's not too much happening. Morning low clouds have disappeared off the coast of California. You've got some scattered showers and thunderstorms beginning to bubble up in parts of the southern and central Rockies, and that's pretty much it. There's a deep trough out off the West Coast, and that's where we think it's going to probably wind up staying. So let's take a look at the upper air pattern going forward. Let me just jump over to the GFS. I'm going to take this, let me just roll it to the very beginning, which is here's today, here's late this afternoon, and you can see what we've got is a fairly, here there's a trough here in the east. It's not really very deep at all. You've got a deeper trough out in the Canadian Northwest. The ridge in the west is flattened out a little bit. You've got this ridge in the Atlantic that extends all the way into the Bahamas, and there's the likely path with respect to Tropical Storm Don as it moves out of the tropical Atlantic and into the eastern Caribbean. So that kind of makes, pretty much makes sense with what we see. And, that trough, there's weak troughing in the east all week long. So that's going to probably mean the chances for showers and thunderstorms. It's probably going to keep things very warm and humid, and it may actually even get hot. I think Thursday would be the one day, because that's the day the upper ridge kind of flexes a little bit and noses its way eastward. But as we move through the weekend and into next week, you still see getting these glancing blows from the trough that swings around across southern Canada. And in the long range, as we move through the end of July, and you can see the dates up here, by the way, and the beginning of August, that trough in the east is still there, ridge in the west still there. Trough in the east not that strong, but certainly evident here. Now that we're at the end of this long range period is August 2nd, and you still got that troughing in the east and that ridge. The ridge is up the Rockies, and you've got a trough off the West Coast. So again, not too much change in the overall dynamics of the pattern, in the sense that we're not seeing, a big ridge develop in the eastern part of the United States. Just pretty much the same story. We're kind of having, in my view, this is sort of an average July when it comes to the kind of weather pattern we're seeing. It has not been especially hot at least in my neck of the woods. We've had a few 90-degree days, but we haven't had that many. And let's take you on the surface map, and you can see the chances for showers and storms pretty much every day this week. Not anything especially threatening. We have a weather front that is approaching here on Thursday night into Friday, and a bit of a high builds into eastern Canada. Here's our front Friday night. Looks like it's running right here like this, and you've got a warm front that with the next low that's coming out of the Rockies. Let's move forward, and the weekend chances for showers and storms through the Northeast. Maybe not so much Saturday, but probably on Sunday. Then another front goes by, another high to the north, kind of tries to push a little dry air down for the first part of the week of July 24th. And then the next system rolls along right after that, and that brings in the chances for showers and thunderstorms on and off through the last week of July, and so forth and so forth and so on. So it really is we're not seeing anything new here. We're seeing the same pattern pretty much repeat itself with varying strengths, depending on how deep that trough is when it comes down in the in the east, and the ridge pretty much staying out in the west, where much of the hot weather has been so far this summer. So check out the website, meteorologistjoechaffee.com. We'll have a little bit more on Tropical Storm Don, and of course all other local weather conditions with regards to what's going on in the northeast and mid-Atlantic states. And you can check out Angry Ben's post on New York City at nycweathernow.com. And if you're new to my YouTube channel, welcome. And please hit the subscribe button and join us on a daily basis as we not only try to do some videos this way where I can illustrate things a bit, but we've also been doing live streams, and that apparently is being well received by most of you, and I really appreciate that. So if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would very much appreciate it. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.